Right now, you're sitting in an executive suite staring at a blinking cursor in the chat interface. You type a carefully worded paragraph into a large language model. You ask it to analyze a market trend, write a strategic memo, or optimize a supply chain route. You hit enter. The machine generates a response in 3 seconds. You copy it, paste it into a document, and you feel like a surge of satisfaction. You believe you have mastered the future of work. You call yourself a prompt engineer. You're operating under a catastrophic terminal illusion. If you're still just prompting artificial intelligence, you're already falling massively behind the curve in 2026 executive landscape. Surface-level chat interactions are mathematically fragile, entirely unscalable, and utterly fail to capture the multi-layered complexity of a high-level corporate strategy. To lead in this hyper-accelerated economy, you must stop talking to the machine like they are omniscient search engine and start building deep logic architectures. Before I completely dismantle the illusion of the prompt engineer, expose the fatal fragility of a single-turn intent, and give you a precise architectural blueprint to transition from a passive AI user into an Apex AI architect, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Most executives treat AI like a glorified search engine, but that approach lacks the rigorous depth required for true, unshakable organizational transformation. We are entering a new era where raw intent must be transformed into multi-step execution framework that mirror and then exceed the human reasoning. What if you could replace an inconsistent chat result with a reliable, high-level intelligence system that execute complex corporate goals autonomously? It is not about discovering better keyword, it is about mastering structural algorithmic thinking to engineer the new corporate brain. Grab a notebook, it is time to move beyond the prompt and engineer the future. Welcome back, I'm Dr. HR. To understand why my approach to the artificial intelligence and executive leadership is aggressively different from the basic, superficial, AI tips and tricks peddled by the social media influencer, you must understand my underlying structural logic. I hold a PhD in Human Resources, a Master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences TISS in Mumbai, and a Bachelor's in Computer Engineering. I do not look at an LLM as a magical chatbot. I look at it as a raw, uncalibrated cognitive engine that requires aggressive architectural constraint. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for Tier 1 corporate entities, sovereign wealth fund and Apex founders, I monitor exactly how the most lethal companies in the world deploy technology. They do not have their vice president typing questions into a web browser. They build autonomous agentic systems. Let us systematically deconstruct this visionary strategic shift through 5 distinct phases: the fragility of the prompt, the problem of a contextual collapse, deep logic architecture, the autonomous execution blueprint, and the sovereign executive mandate. Phase 1: the fragility of the prompt, the reality check. We must first diagnose the exact debilitating vulnerability of a modern executive who relies on the prompt engineering. In 2023 and 2024, prompt engineering was ultimate corporate buzzword. Executives spent hours learning how to use specific adjectives, role-playing commands, and formatting tricks to coax a slightly better output from a generative model. In the 2026, the concept of the prompt engineer is dead. It is a legacy concept for end users. Imagine you are hired as a chief architect to build a massive 100-story skyscraper in downtown Dubai. You walk onto the empty plot of land. You look at the construction crew and you shout a single detailed sentence: "Build me a highly profitable modern skyscraper using glass and steel, optimized for wind resistance and luxury tenant." You gave them a great prompt. You used excellent keyword, but the building will never be built. Why? Because you provided raw intent without structural architecture. You did not provide a geological survey, the weight-bearing calculations of the foundation, the sequential order of the steel girder, or the specific routing of an electrical grid. This is exactly what happens when you type a complex strategic request into an LLM. You are providing raw intent, the model receives your prompt and executes a mathematical regression to the mean. It guesses the average response based on its massive training data. It gives you a generic, polished, beautifully written hallucination that completely lacks the localized physics of your specific corporate reality. Service level chats interactions are fundamentally fragile. If the user forgets to include one specific constraint in their paragraph, the entire output changes. If the model updates its weights on the backend, your perfect prompt suddenly stops working. You cannot build $1 billion corporate infrastructure on top of a paragraph of a text. You are trusting the operational security of your firm to a single roll of algorithmic dice. If you are just prompting, you are not an architect. You are a tourist asking the machine for a direction. Phase 2, Contextual Collapse, the high-stakes problem. To understand why deep logic architecture is the new required language, we must examine the biological limitation of the machine. When faced with the actual corporate chaos, we must explore the phenomena of contextual collapse. Let us look at a high-stakes problem inside a Tier 1 financial institution. You are the Vice President of Operations. You are attempting an overhaul a legacy compliance auditing system. The data is messy. It spreads across obsolete on-premise servers, disorganized Oracle SCM database, and thousands of PDF legal contracts. The amateur executive tries to solve this with a prompt. They upload 10 PDFs into a chat windows and say, audit these contracts for compliance violations according to the new UAE labor regulation. The machine processes the document and splits out a summary. The executive thinks they have won. They have actually created a massive, unquantifiable liability. When you shove a massive, complex organizational dilemma into a single processing pass, the LLM suffers from a contextual collapse. The context window, the amount of memory the model can hold at one time, becomes saturated with noise. The attention mechanism of the neural network degrades. It misses the subtle, buried clause on page 47 of the 7th PDF. It hallucinates a legal precedent that does not exist to fill the void. More importantly, it has no recursive feedback loop. It does not pause, look at its own work and ask, did I misinterpret this clause based on the cross-reference in the document too? It just blindly output the data to please the user. Treating AI like a search engine lacks the depth required for organizational transformation. A search engine retrieves static information. A corporate brain must execute dynamic, multivariant logic. When you rely on a single prompt, you are forcing the model to be the data extractor, the legal auditor, the financial analyst, and the strategic synthesizer, all at the same time, same millisecond. No biological human could perform all those roles simultaneously without making a catastrophic error, and the mathematically machine cannot do it either. The prompt is a single point of failure. You must replace it with highly constrained multi-node system. Phase 3, Deep Logic Architecture, the visionary strategic shift. If prompting is dead, what is the new required language of the executive class? You must master deep logic architecture. We are entering the era of an AI architect, where raw intent is transformed into a multi-step execution framework that perfectly mirrors and rigorously constrains human reasoning. This is not about learning how to code in Python or C++. This is about mastering structural algorithmic thinking. Deep logic architecture is the process of fragmenting a massive corporate goal into a sequenced pipeline of specialized, isolated cognitive microtasks. You do not ask the machine for the final answer. You architect the exact assembly line of the logic that the machine must travel through to arrive at the final answer. Instead of a single prompt, you build a state machine. You build a workflow where intelligence is routed through the specialized node. Think of a Lean Six Sigma. For decades, executives used Lean Six Sigma and value stream mapping to eradicate physical and administrative latency on the factory floor or in the HR department. They broke complex processes down into individual steps, measured the friction at each step, and optimized it. Deep logic architecture is simply value stream mapping applied to the cognitive processing of an LLM. You map the logic. You dictate that node A is only allowed to extract raw data. Node A passes its output to node B. Node B is strictly constrained by the system prompt to act as an adversarial auditor, looking only for a mathematical error in Node A's data. Node B passes the sanitized data to Node C. Node C is connected via API to an external vector database containing yours company proprietary historical data. Utilizing a RAG, the retrieval augmented generation pipeline to add localized context. Finally, Node D formats the output into an executive dashboard. When you build a deep logic architecture, you're completely eliminating the hallucination risk. You have boxed the intelligence in. You have forced the model to show its work at every single stage of the pipeline. You have replaced an inconsistent, fragile chat response with a reliable, highly engineered intelligent system that executes complex goals autonomously. You stop talking to the machine and you start commanding its architecture. Phase 4, the autonomous execution blueprint, engineering the future. We have diagnosed the fragility of the prompt. We have identified contextual collapse. We have defined the deep logic architecture. Now, we must execute the physical build. How does a non-technical executive actually construct the new corporate brain? You must deploy the autonomous execution blueprint. You do not need to build the foundational LLM. You need to build the nervous system that controls it. You execute this using low-code, no-code orchestration platform like LangChain, Make.com, or customized internal enterprise platform. Let us architect a real-world high-stakes implementation. You are the director of global logistics for a massive shipping firm operating out of Jebel Ali Port in Dubai. Your fleet is suffering from massive routing inefficiency due to dynamic weather, fluctuating port tariff, and volatile geopolitical shipping lanes. The amateur prompt: give me a strategy to optimize shipping routes out of Dubai. Result: useless, generic advice. The deep logic architecture blueprint. Step 1. The ingestion node. Sensory input. You build a node connected directly to your enterprise API. This node does not think, it only retrieves. It pulls the real-time GPS coordinate of your 50 cargo ships, the live pricing data of regional port tariff, and the current global weather satellite feed. It structures this messy data into a clean JSON format. Step 2. The constraint matrix, the guardrails. The data flows into a second node. This is a specialized LLM agent programmed with one strict directive: legal and geopolitical compliance. It cross-references the proposed routes against a constantly updated proprietary database of international sanctions, piracy threat level, and maritime law. If a route violates a constraint, it is mathematically deleted from the possibility. Step 3. The optimization engine, the core processor. The sanitized, legally compliant data is passed to the third node. This is a heavy analytical engine. You deploy an advanced model like Claude 4.7 or Gemini Pro, specifically prompted to act as a mathematical routing optimizer. It calculates the fuel burn rate, the time in transit, and the tariff cost. It generates the 3 most profitable routes. Step 4. The synthetic adversary, the red team. Before a single ship is redirected, the logic must be stress tested. The data flows to the fourth node, the synthetic adversary. This is a model instructed to act as a hostile, pessimist chief financial officer. Its only job is to try to break the proposed route. It looks for the hidden cost, currency fluctuation risk, and the supply chain vulnerability. It attacks the logic. Step 5. The calibration loop and the execution. The system routes the adversary critique back to the optimization engine to fix the vulnerability. Once the loop resolves, the final node uses an API integration to automatically update the navigation systems of the ship and email a finalized bulletproof justification report to an executive board. You took a chaotic, multivariable, globally scaled problem and you engineered an autonomous intelligence system to solve it. This entire pipeline operates in seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without a single human typing a prompt into a chat window. This is what it means to be an AI architect. You have engineered an undeniable, unshakable moat around your corporate operation. Phase 5, the sovereign executive mandate, securing your relevance. You must confront the brutal, unyielding reality of the 2026 labor market and your place within it. There are 2 classes of professionals emerging in the modern enterprise. The first class is the end user. The end user treats AI like a magical tool to make their obsolete job slightly easier. They learn prompt hacks. They use the AI to write their emails faster, to summarize the meeting they are too disengaged to pay attention to, and to generate mediocre marketing copy. They believe they are adapting. In reality, they are simply training the algorithms on how to permanently replace them. When the enterprise software updates and integrates those workflows natively, end user is liquidated. They accumulate massive career debt and the market called the low. The second class is a sovereign executive, the AI architect. The AI architect understands the raw intelligence in becoming a cheap, abundant commodity. The frontier models are locked in a ruthlessly priced war, driving the cost of a million token down to the pennies. The true, unreplicable value does not lie in possessing the intelligence. It lies in structuring the intelligence. The market pays a massive, unprecedented premium to the individual who can walk into a chaotic, legacy corporation, map their value stream, and build a deep logic architecture that physically replaces the bloated middle management hierarchy. You must make a choice. Will you continue to type paragraphs into a chat box hoping the machine guesses your intent correctly? Will you leave the strategic future of your career and your company up to the fragile, hallucinatory output of a single turn prompt? Or will you assume the sovereign executive mandate? Will you master the algorithmic thinking required to build state machines? Will you deploy a synthetic adversaries to stress test your logic? Will you build the autonomous nervous system that wires the raw power of the digital god directly into your company's revenue stream? The gap between legacy management and AI transformation has closed. The era of the prompt engineer is mathematically dead. Stop settling for inconsistent result. Stop treating the most powerful cognitive technology in human history like a glorified search engine. Master deep logic architecture. Engineer the execution framework. Secure your absolute relevance in the boardroom and build the new corporate brain. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I'll see you at the top.